Welcome to Truth, Money, and Freedom. Today is Wednesday, September 18th, 2019. It's late in the evening, gang, actually. It's nearly Thursday, but I thought I'd get a video out because a lot of things have played out the way we have thought in our Discord group. And I want to tell you what I think of things at this point in time because there's a lot of stuff that I don't understand at this point. But I'm going to go through this the best I can. First of all, let's look at the markets today. The Dow was up 36 points, Nasdaq down 8 points, S&P up 1 point. 10-year yield and the other yields actually went down. That means bonds were getting purchased today. So one interesting thing I would like to show you guys is that the 30-year is beneath the Fed funds rate. Now, that will change because the Fed lowered interest rates today by 25 basis points. And that's the main crux of what I'm going to get into today. But I wanted to show you guys before the changeover. So we have the 30-year was at 2.21 today. It did come up a little bit, so it sold off a little bit. But the Fed funds rate is supposed to be 2.25. They're not supposed to be going beyond that, but they have and they did. It started this week. We'll get into that in just a little bit. But I wanted you guys to actually see that because that's highly unusual. I'm not sure I've ever seen the Fed funds rate go above its mandate, but for the last 2 days it has, while it lowered interest rates, which is very interesting. Okay, let's continue on. Liquidity shortage getting worse. Fed's repo oversubscribed as funding demand soar 50% overnight. This is what I'd like to talk about. And this is complex and it's technical and all that fun stuff. But let me boil it down the best that I can. The Fed in the last 2 days has literally printed up $125 billion and gave it to the banks. So they haven't done that for a long, long time. Yet our economy's awesome. Remember, everyone. Remember, our economy's awesome. Our president tells us this. Our Congress tells us this. The Federal Reserve tells us this. And there's an enormous amount of cheerleaders in the peanut gallery claiming how wonderful the economy is. Yet we're printing money and we're giving it to the banks because our economy is so awesome. So that's what this story's about. By the way, everything will be linked below. I mean, I could get into the highly technical stuff, but I don't think it's necessary. And we'll get into some more of what's in here in just a few more tabs here. Okay, wanted to bring to your attention FASB 56. Now, first of all, I'd like to do a shout out to Stronghorse. You know who you are. David Burden brought this to my attention, and he comments a lot in my YouTube videos. And this is about FASB 56. Now, and I know about FASB 56. This is, by the way, on Catherine Austin Fitz's website, the Solari Report. And this will be linked down below. But this is interesting stuff, and it's complicated, but let me boil it down. It's really simple. The Fed is turning many of its, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said the Fed. Although the Fed is doing it, the Federal Reserve is doing it with a second balance sheet. But the government is now moving an enormous amount of its operations over to black box. And so you say, hey, TC, what the heck does that mean? What that means is they're literally going to be shielding anyone from seeing their financials. What they take in, what goes out, where it goes, all that stuff will be hidden. And they will tell us what they've done, but we can't see their ledger, the books. So let's just take, for instance, the Pentagon. They've been doing this for years, where basically there's no accountability for their budget. They're given a certain amount of money and they just do whatever they want. And that's basically what the government is now doing. They're extending that courtesy now to many other aspects of government, including the State Department. I believe a lot of this is going into the FBI as well. And I have heard stories, although I don't know if it's true, that it's actually going to Social Security now as well. Well, that makes sense to me in a weird way because Social Security is bankrupt. They've been bankrupt since, I believe, 2015. They lie about the numbers, though. They all lie. You guys don't need to hear that from me. You guys already know this. Next story, Bain. Something is happening, or Blaine, I'm sorry, Blaine. Something is happening and we don't know what it is. And this is actually, um, this is kind of where I stand right now, gang. I haven't had a whole lot of time to watch this stuff and better yet make sense of it. But there's a lot of weird stuff going in financials right now in the financial world. There's just a ton of it. We have QE started again, but it's quiet and it's in the background, and they're calling it a limited QE. Um, and what is that? $125 billion printed in the last 2 days, given to the banks, just given to them. Here you go, gang. Enjoy. Don't spend it all in one place. That's weird. That shouldn't be happening. Also, I won't get into it right now, but silver and gold got pummeled today. And that doesn't make sense. Nothing about that makes sense. That was just an out and out hammering, from the banks and from the Federal Reserve. So there is just a lot going on, and none of it is. And by the way, and we don't know what it is. Let's concentrate on that. Since FASB 56, we're not meant to know what's going on anymore in the financial world. We're not allowed to know because 2008 was just too scary. The average person just can't handle it, I guess. But the fact of the matter is, our economy is just literally staring into the abyss right now. And it's not just ours, it's worldwide. It's worldwide, gang. So beware. Be aware. Be aware that this is going on, this is happening, and it's not getting any better. It doesn't matter what they do anymore. They can black box as many things as they want. And by the way, FASB's 56, and I understand this. I've read this because this is not new. As you see here, she wrote this article at the end of 2018. FASB 56, and basically taking transparency out of the financials of government, to me is like going digital with your currency because it would be a black box operation under those conditions too. So this is nothing that should surprise you. This is nothing that should make you go, "Gosh darn it! I wish I understood what was going on." Well, you do. You actually do. It's right in front of you. The government is bankrupt, and they're trying to hide it. That's precisely what it is. And the printing of money has resumed. They don't want you to know about that either. Therefore, the second balance sheet with the Federal Reserve. So that's what, and we don't know what it is about. Okay, next story. Stunning consensus emerges. Fed may announce launch of QE in just a few hours. Now, this is an early story from today, but it does ring true because we've had, and in fact, I'll go to it. Actually, they're going to go ahead and do this again on Thursday. That's tomorrow. They're going to print more money and give it to the banks. So you may ask, why is it the banks are needing this kind of liquidity? Well, if you read further into some of these stories that I'm linking down below, you'll find out very quickly that the banks apparently are very liquid. There's not a problem there. But then why are they printing money? Why is there a shortage? Well, it turns out it's looking more and more like this money is actually going to emerging markets because the dollar, the shiniest turd in the box, is still gaining value against all other currencies in the world. Emerging markets have debt denominated in dollars. They need money currency just to make payments on this. And they're not doing well. They've got to find a way to get more liquidity in the system, basically for emerging markets. That's what this is coming down to. This is what makes it different from 2008. Okay, next story. FOMC. Wild moves over the past 2 days. Plus, the Fed created a monster. Well, I'm not a big fan of King World News. And so I don't pull stories from there very often. It's pretty rare. This might be the second time since the channel was started that I've pulled a story from King World. And but this one, and by the way, Wanderer brought this to my attention. This one here is talking about, once again, easily the FOMC meeting and the statement that they will look at. But the monster has already been created, and the monster is the system, if you will. The markets are used to cheap, easy money. So this is all they'll accept anymore. They've had a taste of it, now they want more. Well, the Fed, of course, is trying to normalize the economy, right, by raising interest rates slowly but surely. Very slowly, by the way. And it failed. Now, the Fed said it was a one-off at the end of July when they actually did the quarter point cut. That was 6 weeks ago, gang. That was 6 weeks ago. Their minutes that were released 3 weeks later, 3 weeks ago, said it was a one-off, that they weren't going to do it again. And here we have it. They did it again. So, and then your next thing is, well, gosh darn it, isn't that what you predicted, TC? Yes, it is. But once again, this doesn't take a crystal ball. This is very easy to see. There is only one way this whole thing is going to go from here on in. Money printing and lower interest rates. We're going to get into negative interest rates. Even Ron Paul is predicting this now. This, guys, I'm telling you, this is it. So when we go below 0% on the interest rates, I meant you know, we'll have our own issues, created by that alone. But I think by that time we'll probably be looking at a different currency in the United States at that time. They're going to probably have to take us there. We're the world reserve currency, and then the world's going to find out that we are just as bad as all the other turds in the box. Our currency is. Okay, and so I'm not going to do much more about this. I will link this down below. Fed loses control of its own interest rate as it cuts rates. This doesn't look good. And this story is about how overnight lending spiked 10% on Monday and Tuesday. And that's what led the Federal Reserve to number one, pardon me, gang. Number one, raise the overnight rate to 2.3%. Remember now, 2.25 was as high as they could go. So they actually took it a little bit higher than that, and right before the rate cut. So that new money, that 125 billion that they loaned out to the banks or whatever, printout gave to the banks, has an interest rate of 2.3%. That's what the banks have to pay back to the Fed. So this, once again, this is another symptom, gang. This whole system is falling apart. They don't even know what to do anymore. No one even knows what their job is. The bank regulators sure don't. And last story here before I end. U.S. Fed's Powell downplays concerns about cash crunch on financial markets. Keep in mind, these last two stories are mainstream. They are not alternative media. So even on the mainstream, they can't ignore what's going on now. We have basically a cash crunch because this man here, or at least the New York Fed, had to go ahead and print money and give it to banks. We're not even 100% sure what banks it went to at this point. But they had to do it while they're saying how awesome the economy is. Well, right now, the emerging markets appear to be the reason why we have illiquid markets right now. It's not us. It's not our banks. They're plenty liquid. They've got lots of cash in our banks. But banks around the world that are servicing that emerging market debt are not. So we're printing money, and it's probably going to foreign banks. You heard me correctly. Now, this happened before under Bernanke, and Bernanke refused to answer which banks that money went to. We printed the money. We gave it to these foreign banks. We stuck the American taxpayers with the bill. You heard me correct. That's exactly what happened. Okay, I'd like to close out on something I don't have a tab for right now, or a story up for, and that's JP Morgan. Many of you know JP Morgan actually got caught with its pants down, and apparently has been caught yet again spoofing precious metals, and are now being charged under the RICO Act. So what that is racketeering. So there's many charges. I believe there's a grand total of 7 or 9 charges currently against J.P. Morgan. There's multiple government agencies involved in this investigation, including the Department of Justice, and I've even heard, and it's a rumor, but I'm not sure it's true, the Secret Service. Now, why would the Secret Service be involved? Well, if there was counterfeiting of money on quote unquote derivatives of silver, I suppose. I don't know. But I do want to tell you all my thoughts on that real quick. My thoughts are nothing is going to happen. It's a giant nothing burger. The United States government will not prosecute one of the big banks. They won't do it. Because the banks and the government together make up what we call the deep state. So I don't want you guys to, think silver's going to go to the moon because the manipulation has been caught and is now at an end. No, manipulation of precious metals has been caught many times through the years, and I want you guys to understand that they were never prosecuted. Not properly, anyway. Deutsche got away with $4 billion in I believe it was a 4-year period. $4 billion. And by the way, they took it from their investors. They defrauded their investors. It's bank fraud, wire fraud, all kinds of fraud going on with Deutsche. 4 billion with a B, bravo. 4 billion in profit. Their fine was 4 million, and then one trader lost his job. This is the kind of thing we've come to expect of our federal government because they absolutely understand the two-tier legal system. Bankers never, ever get prosecuted. Politicians don't get prosecuted. They're the deep state. They don't get prosecuted. They never have to pay for their crimes. We've seen it too many times, so many times. It's a revolving door of injustice in the deep state. It will never happen, gang. And I'm here to tell you, I'm very hopeful that something has changed now and we will actually start prosecuting those who are manipulating gold and silver. But I wouldn't hold my breath. I wouldn't. And I'm sorry about that. I hate to end on a sour note like that, but I know it's making its way through the alternative media right now. This whole J.P. Morgan thing, the RICO Act, which is racketeering. This is how they brought down the mob back in the 1930s, is through racketeering charges. But I'm telling you, gang, I just don't see anything coming of it. I really don't. And I hope I'm wrong. I truly hope I'm wrong. But I just thought I'd give you my take on that. Okay, gang, that's all I have for now. As things get a little better for me, I have a little more time, and I have time to finish, with getting my equipment. I'm getting new equipment in now, by the way. And I do have a new PC here, but I'm having problems with microphones and headsets and all that fun stuff with Windows 10, unfortunately. So there's some more little wrinkles in this thing that I've got to iron out. And hopefully I'll be able to get out more videos sometime in the near future because there is a lot going on. A lot. And you guys are witnessing history right now. This is history. This is the stuff your grandkids and great-grandkids will be interested in hearing stories from you on. This stuff that's going on right now with Powell, with the Federal Reserve, with Trump, J.P. Morgan, how cheap silver and gold are. Believe it or not, these will be stories that you'll be telling your kids for years to come. Doesn't mean I think silver's going to go up right now, but it will go up eventually. And you'll be able to tell them when you were able to get it for an hour's worth of labor. You were able to purchase an entire ounce of silver with an hour's worth of labor. Okay, gang, that's all I have for now. You guys have a wonderful, wonderful day. May God bless each and every one of you.